Let's go on the record. On September 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk was shot and killed in Utah Valley University while speaking to college students. A single shot from a rooftop, blood everywhere, students running and screaming. I need you to understand, this is not some random tragedy. This is the logical endpoint of what we've been building towards for years. Because here's what's been happening. We've got students on college campuses saying that certain speakers are too dangerous to be allowed to speak. We've got parents at school board meetings calling each other terrorists. We've turned our neighbors into enemies over pronouns and library books. And now, somebody is dead. This is not about a left versus right issue anymore, friends. This is good versus evil. This is God versus nihilism. This is biblical. This is about the fact that we've completely lost the ability to disagree like normal human beings. One wrong opinion and suddenly you're not just wrong, now you're labeled as evil. You're labeled as dangerous and you deserve to be silenced. When a society decides that half of its people are too dangerous to talk to, that's when talking stops. And that's when violence starts. We are living in a society that is being completely run by people running off of their emotions. When we react so emotionally to every little thing, the ability that we have to think clearly, to think critically, is being inhibited. But the truth is this, we cannot cohabitate with criminals who celebrate and even encourage violence. So what's the answer? How can this issue be resolved without an authoritarian government overreach? So let's talk about it. Today we are going to go deep on the topic of identity politics. This is coming from both sides. This has literally broken our ability to function as a country. We're going to trace exactly how we got here, what it's costing us, and honestly, why I think we're headed for something much worse if we do not figure this out. Now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Let's get into today's episode. So everybody throws this term around very loosely, identity politics. But honestly, most people don't even know what that term actually means. So let me break it down for you. Identity politics is the belief that your group membership, your race, your gender, your sexuality, whatever it is that you identify with, this is the most important thing about you. This should determine how you think, how you vote, and how you live. It says that if you're Black, you should think a certain way about politics. If you're a woman, you should vote a certain way. If you're gay, you should support only certain policies. And if you don't, well, you are now betraying your identity. But here's what this is really about. Do we still believe that all people are created equal or should be judged by their character? Or do we sort everyone into these little tribal boxes where your group membership determines your worth? Because historically, America's greatest leaders have understood this assignment. Martin Luther King Jr., he stood on the steps of Lincoln Memorial and he said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal." He was calling America to be better than it was. They saw the hypocrisy and they said, fix it. They saw broken promises and they said, keep them. They believed in treating people as individuals with equal dignity. They just wanted America to actually follow through. According to identity politics, your worth isn't measured by character or your choices. It is now measured by what boxes you check on the diversity form. Your future isn't determined by your efforts. It's now predetermined by your tribal membership. Your politics aren't based on your values. They're assigned by your demographic category. Friends, this is literally the opposite of what civil rights movement is about. MLK dreamed of a day where his children would be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. But identity politics says this. It says, actually, no, it is your gender or it is the color of your skin that is your character. Your group identity is your destiny. So now we're not just arguing about policies anymore. We are arguing about whether America's founding principles of individual liberty and equal treatment are worth saving or if they're fundamentally evil and they now need to be replaced with a group-based hierarchy. That is a pretty big difference. And when you frame it that way, it makes sense why people are so angry. Because if you believe that the other side of the spectrum wants to destroy the foundation of individual dignity, why would you want to have a calm debate with them? Identity politics does not just change how we vote, it changes how we see each other. other. Instead of fellow Americans who happen to disagree, we become the enemy tribes who are now fighting for survival. And emotions are currency. Attention and energy are currency. So when people are triggered, there's those who know how to manipulate. It's a situation of being in a constantly reactive state, which clouds your ability to actually respond. Let's talk about it. Where did all of these ideas actually come from? Because they didn't just appear out of nowhere. We need to talk about a French philosopher. Now, you've probably never heard of him, but these are the ideas that are literally shaping your life right now. Let's talk about Michel Foucault. This person argued that power does not come from laws or elections, it comes from controlling language and discourse. Basically, whoever controls the conversation controls society. Does that sound familiar? Here is the kicker. These ideas didn't just stay in dusty philosophy books. These ideas came straight to American universities. Graduate seminars became freshman orientation. Academic theory became mandatory diversity training. This is the important part. All of those students who then graduated, well, they didn't just leave those ideas on campus, they carried them into HR departments, into newsrooms, into tech companies, and non-profit organizations. Suddenly, what was a fringe academic theory in the 1980s became an official policy of the Fortune 500 companies in the 2020s. This is everywhere. Your kid's elementary school is doing privilege walks, your workplace has microaggression training, your local library is hosting decolonizing story times. What started as some French guy's idea about power and language is now the lens through which millions of Americans are seeing everything. Here is what is wild. Most people implementing these policies have absolutely no idea where they came from. They just know that they're supposed to be anti-racist and inclusive. They don't actually realize that they're actually advancing the very specific ideological framework that rejects the entire American experiment. These ideas were percolating in academia for decades, but the pandemic is really where things started to explode into mainstream American life. Let me paint a picture for you of what happened at Penn State in September 2024. Charlie Kirk shows up for his You're Being Brainwashed tour. Over 1,000 students show up. One side is holding signs that say shut down racists and chanting no hate, no fear, racists are not welcomed here. Now on the other side, they're wearing MAGA hats and they're chanting USA. This is when things get nasty. Students start hurling slurs at each other, and here's the part that should terrify us, especially knowing what happened earlier this week. One protester was screaming out, "You cannot debate fascism, you can't argue against it, you just have to silence it." So hold up, when did we decide that half of the country is too dangerous even to listen to? When did I disagree with you becomes you need to be silenced for public safety? Because this is not just happening on college campuses, this is happening in your local school districts. We are talking about soccer mums and dads who just want to know what their kids are learning. Do you see what is happening? The same silence the opposition mentality that took over colleges, it's now taking over elementary schools. And the truth is this, if you are someone who is consistently easily offended, you may be someone who is easily manipulated. And this is the genius of identity politics. And I use that term very loosely. It basically turns every single issue into a life or death moral emergency. Suddenly there's no such thing as, oh, well, we disagree, but we're both good people. Or this is complicated and reasonable people can see it differently. Or maybe this isn't black and white and we can both hold different opinions. No. Every issue now is existential. Every opponent is evil and every compromise is betrayal. And when everything becomes existential, when nothing is negotiable, when compromise equals betrayal, well, what is left? Force. And the reality is, if it feels like people around us are going insane, well, maybe it's because basically everything that we do, the way that we're living, is fundamentally wrong. From junk food, companies poisoning us for money, people buried in debt, education that isn't honest, and values. Everything is backwards. And the truth is that many people on both sides of the political spectrum don't even know how to be happy anymore. But here's the thing, you don't make people happier and healthier by changing the type of poison in their food or the algorithm. People need to realize what true nourishing food actually is. But here is what many people from both sides have in common. They've both completely given up the idea that their opponents might still be good people who are just wrong about some things. Disagreement is now seen as danger, debate is now framed as complicity, and tolerance is now framed as betrayal. And friends, this is destroying not just our nation, but our kids. The American Psychological Association has documented that political polarization is directly linked to rising anxiety and depression amongst our young people. We're literally traumatizing our children by teaching them that half the adults in their lives are too evil to even reason with. But here is the scariest part. This isn't just heading towards violence, we are already there. Let's go off the record because I want to tell you something that they don't want you to figure out. This whole system is designed to keep us spiritually empty, to drain our consciousness, and to leave us running on fumes of manufactured rage. Think about it. When was the last time you felt genuinely peaceful? When was the last time you had a day where you weren't worried about the state of this country? When was the last time you could just enjoy dinner with your family without somebody bringing up politics? They've stolen our peace, they've hijacked our attention, and they've turned our brain into a battlefield for their psychological warfare. And here's what Jesus said about this. He said, "The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. And I came that you may have life and have it abundantly." Identity politics is the thief. It steals your peace, it kills your relationships, it destroys your ability to think clearly about what actually matters. An abundant life, well, that doesn't come from just winning political battles. It doesn't come from defeating the other tribe. It comes from reconnecting with something deeper than the manufactured crisis of the moment. This real battle isn't just political, it's spiritual. It's not about controlling institutions, it's about freeing consciousness. It's not always as simple as a political conviction. Sometimes it's spiritual bondage running somebody else's program. And Paul said this, he said, "We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces and evil in the heavenly places." The enemy isn't just the other political party. The enemy is the system that keeps us fighting with each other instead of thinking clearly. The enemy is the consciousness harvest that feeds our division. So here's how we break free. We stop consuming the outrage, we stop feeding the algorithm, we stop letting other people tell us who we should hate. We should start asking different questions. Who is it that benefits when I'm angry all of the time? What am I not paying attention to while I'm obsessing over this political drama? What would my life look like if I just stopped caring about what strangers on the internet thought about my pronouns? And here's the bottom line, friends. Your worth as a human being is not determined by who you voted for. Your neighbor's character is not defined by their stance on pronouns, and our kids deserve to grow up in a country where adults can disagree without treating each other like enemies. So here's my challenge. When is the last time that you had an actual conversation, not just a debate, not an argument, but a very real conversation with somebody who disagrees with you politically? Try it. Ask them why they believe what they believe and listen to their answer. You might be surprised by what you learn, or maybe they really are just crazy. I don't know. So tell the truth, choose courage, come against fear unless it's the fear of God, and take responsibility for the world around you. Your choices make ripples. Now, if this video opened up your eyes to how deep this problem goes, hit that subscribe button, join the family, share this video with somebody who needs it, and subscribe for more deep dives every Thursday and Sunday. Now it's your turn to go on the record. What do you think about this topic? Look, the next time you see people trying to shut down a speaker or screaming at a school board meeting, ask yourself, what are they so afraid of hearing? Fear makes us tribal, but courage makes us human. Choose courage, choose conversation before it's too late. Because when people stop talking, that's when the violence starts.